And let's take a look at some of these buttons that we have. So I'm going to just move the interface up so you can see both the events and the buttons all at the same time. They're right here if you're using Movie Studio, and we'll talk about Vegas Pro in just a second here. So you can see if I have nothing selected that these four little icons are all grayed out. If I select an event, all of a sudden these three light up, and if we make a time selection, then we have this first one light up. And so these are pretty handy, and they represent also keyboard shortcuts, which you could use as well. The first button here is going to be called Trim, or Control T. And what that's going to do is let us define an area using a selection. And let's just get a little bit of our preview back here so we can see something. Let's say instead of being the area we want to cut out, this is the only area on this event that we want to keep. So I'm going to Control click to select this event, because after all we don't want to disturb the time selection. And I'll just hit the Trim button here. And what happens is we get rid of everything else except what's already within that time selection. So I'll undo. And let's take a look at these other buttons. First of all, I just did a split before with the S key. We now have a button for that as well if you don't want to use the keyboard. So let's just click right here, for instance, and hit S for split. And the operation I just showed you before, hit delete key, and then everything after the split is deleted. Again, we undo. And these two buttons are really quite convenient, and that's going to let us trim both to the left and to the right of the cursor position. So before I set the cursor position and just trimmed to it and snap to it, and that's actually fairly convenient. But an even quicker way of doing that is to use this button or its keyboard equivalent. And this is Trim Start, which is also Alt left bracket. And on the keyboard, that would be your Alt key, and then in this left bracket right next to the P. Let's just use the button here. Just as quick as that, it trimmed to the cursor position without having to drag it. So that's very quick and convenient. I tend to be kind of a keyboard person, so I would probably use the Alt bracket. Let's just try that. Alt bracket, and there you go, same thing happened. Control Z our way out. And let's try the Alt end bracket or the Trim end. So let's use the button right here. I'll get the keyboard out of the way. There you go. Very quick and easy. Very handy tool to have. Now, if you're using Vegas Pro, you'll find that these buttons are not automatically included on your toolbar up here, but there is a way we can include them. So let's take a look at Pro for a second. And what we're going to do is use one of the features of Vegas Pro, which is the ability to customize our toolbar. So let's go to Options, Customize Toolbar. And here you see among the choices of things that we can add to the toolbar, and there are quite a few different things here, we have those four icons: Trim, Trim Start, Trim End, and Split. So it's just a matter of selecting them, hit Add, and you can see it shows up right here in the toolbar. Trim Start, let's add that, Trim End, and Split. So there you go. Pro users, don't feel left out. Just because Movie Studio has these to start out doesn't mean we can't add them ourselves. And they are pretty handy to have right here on the toolbar.